This is Echo Zoe Radio, episode 188 for December 2023, with Andrew Rappaport and Fred Butler for the 2023 Roundtable.
Welcome to Echo Zoe Radio, the podcast outreach of Echo Zoe Ministries, where you'll hear about important topics affecting the church today. Our primary goal is to explore a variety of issues while remaining faithful to God and His Word. Stay with us for the next hour as your host, Andy Olson, shares his conversation with this month's guest. Here's your host, Andy Olson.
I'm Andy Olson. Thanks for listening to Echo Zoe Radio. I look forward all year to the December Roundtable discussion with Andrew Rappaport and Fred Butler. This is the 6th annual Roundtable. It's also the second episode in a row with Andrew following our discussion of modern Israel last month. This year for the Roundtable, the discussion is a little bit more freeform. It's a fun discussion that begins with Fred talking about Bigfoot and ends with Andrew discussing No Quarter November. Video of the episode's available at YouTube, Rumble, the Echo Zoe Locals page, and embedded in the episode page at echozoe.com/188. There won't be much for show notes this episode, but it's the best way to get to the video. Finally, I want to remind everyone about the Christian podcast community. Among all of the many excellent, biblically faithful podcasts you'll find at the Christian podcast community is Andrew's shows, the Rappaport and Apologetics Live. You can find the entire list at christianpodcastcommunity.org. You can subscribe to the shows you want to hear directly or subscribe to the community feed and get all of the shows in one big feed. With that, here's my discussion with Andrew and Fred. Fred and Andrew, it's that time of year again. This is one of my favorite episodes to do. I'm glad that we've made this an annual episode. We're kind of meandering a little bit with the format, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. So we're going to do, I think it's going to be called Roundtable, but we're just going to do kind of a freeform discussion.
Well, I think you asked, hey, what should we talk about? And I brought up charismatics and Fred brought up Christian nationalism, and you let us know that, wait, those are two topics you guys.
It never dies.
Last year, Fred did Christian nationalism, and Andrew, you did cessationism. You just got back from a conference or something on it.
Yeah. And I had just gotten back from the conference and the video recordings for the film. Now I got the debate with Michael Brown. He was challenging people to debate him on that, so we're setting that up. So, yeah, it's a lot of interesting things there.
He's going to not only challenge, but he'll actually debate you.
Yeah, no, I'll give credit where credit is due, because there's guys, the Remnant Radio. Everyone.
I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone keeps tagging me saying, "No, they're willing to debate anyone," and I'm going, well, then you tell them to debate me, because I've already tried to contact them, and it's like, and others have. People keep tagging me in things with them, and there's some other guys saying, "Oh, we'll debate." No, they don't. They want an echo chamber. At least Michael Brown is not doing that. Michael Brown is saying he wants a debate. Okay. I said, I did the same I did with the others. I'll do it. And he said, great. And he reached out to me, and, he first, I guess, checked me out because he reached out to James White and a couple others, because he sent me a text saying, hey, talk to James and this guy Ken, and they speak well of you. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, I mean, you got to give credit where someone's not going to just be the keyboard warrior. And as far as I could tell, the guys at the Remnant Radio are just keyboard warriors. They're challenging within a echo chamber, but they want to stay in that echo chamber. I mean, I could be wrong, but I downloaded about 50 of their episodes to listen to, thinking I'd be preparing for a debate with them, but they haven't reached back out to me. So, hey, anyone that knows guys from the Remnant Radio, let them know.
I don't want to debate. I just come on and discuss. We don't have to necessarily debate. Just let's talk about the points that they've got. And
that's what we do on Apologetics Live every week.
Yeah.
People come in, discuss anything. I mean, I have people that disagree with me on the gifts, and they come in and we talk about it.
right. I mean, to me, that would be more profitable than a debate.
Yeah.
But
So
I like that format better usually. As long as, I mean, the big thing of a debate is the cross-examination, right? So as long as you have good cross-examination where you don't have someone running the clock and you have the back and forth, it helps the audience see what the issues are.
right.
The one time, so Matt Slick, he was debating Matt Dillahunty, and the whole goal that we had was to put Dillahunty on the defensive. So we're going through different topics, and I said to Matt, we all agreed we wanted him to, Dillahunty to actually have to defend, because all he does is attack. And I think what we ended up coming up with was the topic, and Dillahunty agreed to it: secular humanism is superior to Christianity. So he had to actually argue and defend secular humanism over Christianity. And so the whole goal was to get to the cross-examination, get him having to defend. Well, he actually says in the debate, man, this is hard having to defend this. He's like, I've never had to do this before. And he's like, Matt, I think, let him off the hook, but it was still a good discussion. Matt's like, well, let's just have a discussion then instead of the formal debate time, But it showed Dillahunty that it's easy to just throw daggers at other people's views. It's hard to get up there during a cross-examination and actually defend a view. But
well, Fred, you had said just before we hit record, you wanted to talk about Bigfoot.
And he was serious.
I was semi-serious, but that would be a long thing to set up, and it would.
How long would it possibly be, Fred? I mean, how long does it take to say? I just said it. I mean, there's all the evidence. What I just said there, that was. Do you really believe it?
I'm just wondering.
Wait, he's holding up a book. Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
I just like to point out. No. I do want to point out that we are recording video this month, so
I know.
You should be at echozoe.com/188 or at the Rumble channel, so you can see.
What is that now? We tell.
This is.
Yeah, what is this?
There's a girl that works at Grace CU, and
she's not Bigfoot.
Well, listen to no, she's not a Bigfoot. We were talking about this topic like maybe, I don't know, back in the summer, and she said, well, I have a Bigfoot story. And I'm like, what? She said, well, really, it's my grandfather that has a Bigfoot story.
Right there. Yeah, that's like I know a missionary who healed someone in a far.
I can introduce you to tons of people that there's lots of people that have Bigfoot stories.
I was wondering if you weren't listening to Haunted Cosmos now or something.
Yeah, those guys have a wrong view of Bigfoot. That's why I was listening to them.
I put Bigfoot up there with, people actually speaking in the gift of languages. Okay. It happens in a faraway place where there's no video evidence and it's just stories.
There's lots of video evidence for Bigfoot. There's more evidence for Bigfoot than there is giant squid. Everybody, I like the way y'all looking at me like
that. Next year you're going to talk giant squid with us, or?
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay. So you got me, Fred. Let's go for this. Okay. All right. What's the evidence for Bigfoot?
There's at least four lines of evidence. Number one is the historical aspect of it, in that this is something that has been recorded in Native American culture. Daniel Boone talks about shooting what he called was a Yahoo, which was at that time, if you remember Jonathan Swift and his novel Gulliver's Travels, they had these massive gorilla men in the novel that he called Yahoos. And so Daniel Boone talked about how him and his son got set upon by a Yahoo, and they had to kill it. And a massive, hairy wild man is the way they describe it. Newspaper accounts going back into the 1800s that, when Americans started coming, Europeans started, I guess, populating the Northwest, and that area would talk about how they got these wild men. We were down there in a camp, and these wild men, they'd always call them these wild men, massive, hairy, and then they all describe them in the same way. large, got kind of the conical head, wide shoulders.
It's like Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, well, Harry and the Hendersons sort of kind of, that was more like a Chewbacca looking thing. But they have the super long arms, all of that sort of thing. In the Native American culture, they've got Bigfoot is part of their ecosystem. So you got foxes and bears and wolves and owls and the wild man, the big man is what they call him. And he's depicted in totem poles and their art. Is it in Tula? Somewhere up north of here, there's an Indian reservation that has depictions in their art in this one cave of the Bigfoot with the Indians and these tribes. And then of course you've got the multiple eyewitnesses. That's what's the thing is, people who have to see it all the time. Whether they're camping, they're not crazy people, they're not drunk, they're not misidentifying bears or something like that. But it's generally they're just there. They're camping or hiking. All of a sudden they come around the trail and also, oh my gosh, and it's a glimpse. It kind of turns, goes into the woods, and their world is rot. I mean, there's people that have PTSD from it. Like they don't want to go back in the woods after encountering this. There's people who they won't talk about it because they're like, everybody will laugh at me, like Andrew here, and and I don't want to be mocked or made fun of, so I won't talk about it.
I'm waiting for you to say April Fools.
Well, and I'm curious, like,
throw me here.
I don't know what to tell you.
I just listened to 2 episodes of Haunted Cosmos on Bigfoot, and you just said that they have a wrong view on it. So
well, I think they go.
What do you think?
Well, they go to right now. I'm not convinced that it's some kind of they kind of convinced it's some kind of demonic thing, and I'm like, demonic? It's just there's lots of people have. It's
a neat show, but everything seems to go back to demonic.
Yeah, it goes back to demons. I can grant UFOs and that sort of thing could very well be demonic, but Bigfoot is a prosaic. I mean, it's a animal. It leaves tracks. There's people have seen them with young, with a mother carrying a child. Patty, the famous one that Roger Patterson. She has a female form there. You can see there in the image. She's got the bosoms. So I mean, it's like people see them we'll see multiple families of them together, walking. But if you guys want to explore this topic, I'm going to be
interested. You got me interested.
There's lots of great little documentaries online you can look at and talk about it.
I don't want a documentary. I want to see what Fred has to say about it.
All right, so let me look. I'll put, since this is on video.
There you go.
I'll share screen because
there you go.
I think that there is proof of Bigfoot. Here we go.
I'm not ready to go there yet, Andrew.
Yeah, no. Here, this was sent to me. There he is.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Bigfoot.
Is that
who is that?
Is that Matt? Is that Matt?
That's Matt Slick. He took a photo and they did that. He sent that to me saying that he's Bigfoot.
Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting. Okay,
that's as close as I'm going to get to believing that there's been Bigfoot.
No, I was thinking you were trying to skip ahead to this other topic we were going to maybe talk about.
Go to the other topic. Come on. People don't want to hear Fred being crazy about Bigfoot.
You can't bring up Bigfoot and then all of a sudden just say, nah.
I talked to Jeffrey.
Hear this.
I talked to Jeffrey Rice because Jeffrey Rice, the Bible rebind guy. He's a Bigfoot guy too.
Don't tell me he's believing in Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, and he's got a mug that he's just created. It says,
"Oh, you got to be kidding!"
Quotes Deuteronomy. Says, "In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter will be established," or something like that. And he's like, when I told him, I said, "Hey, are you a Bigfoot guy?" And he's like, "Yeah, are you a Bigfoot guy?" I'm like, "I'm a Bigfoot guy." He's like, I'm more like, I'm just like, people don't believe in it. You got to be kidding me. That's the dumbest thing ever.
To be fair, I don't.
There's so much evidence
scriptural that says that there can't be a Bigfoot.
The whole idea of Bigfoot is based in evolution. So
no, it's not. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
If they're like if they're people that have been, the wild people that don't want to be seen or hidden.
So all right. So here's the thing.
I don't know why they couldn't just be
I'm going to be
another.
at Jeffrey Rice's open air theology conference in
Yeah, ask him about it.
February.
I'll talk to you about
Man. Okay, we're going to find out. So okay, that means Fred, Andy, you guys both have to go to the open air theology conference on Calvinism, where we could talk about Bigfoot.
Okay, Calvinism and Bigfoot. I'm as convinced
Q&A.
about Calvinism as I am supralapsarianism. My Calvinism is so high, I look down on John Gill's bald spot. That's how high it is. Anyway.
I'm just I don't know if I can recover, Andy. I'm still blown away that Fred actually believes in Bigfoot. I'm sorry.
I've just gotten more serious about it whenever, I don't know, lived here. We would go up to Washington State because my mother lived with my brother in Issaquah. So we'd have to travel through one of the biggest hotspot regions of the world. And we went to Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens is a historic area because on the north side of the mountain, there's a place called Ape Canyon. And it got that name because there was a group of miners in 1924 that had built a prospecting cabin there. And they got attacked in the middle of the night and ran off by what they described were these ginormous monkey men, these ape men, and, hurling rocks, and they'd come up and pound and try to push the cabin over. And they had to, stayed in the cabin all night with their guns, shooting out the sides of it. And they're like, the next morning, I think they even killed one of them. And it fell off a cliff there near where the cabin is. And they hightailed it out of there. We're not going to have any more thing to do with this. And so you can find that on a map up there it's sort of southeast of Mount St. Helens area. But we went up there and we were going just to see the volcano, right? And so you have all these multiple little stops that go up it's like a 60-mile road you have to sort of travel. So we go up to this one area or this one little rest stop, and this guy has this enormous tree that he's carved into Bigfoot. I'm like, wow. So I took a picture of it. And they're all like, "Oh yeah, we've all seen these things." I'm like, "Seriously? What are you talking about?" So when COVID hit, now my entire sort
Did
of
Bigfoot get COVID?
That's a good question. I wonder if it did. I don't. Nobody got COVID. COVID was a big scam anyway. We can't put this on YouTube because they'll censor us for saying that.
Not anymore. No, now
anyway.
you could say that. Now the things that YouTube flagged me for, and
what's that?
You can now say. I mean, things like about the vaccines, all that. Now you could say it. Now,
we're in that transition period before white lung takes over, and and then it all comes back. But it won't be. Have you heard about this now?
Is that the new conspiracy? Is that the new thing?
It's the new virus that's going through China right now. They're calling it white lung. It's some pneumonia. But
it would surprise me because they have them experimenting and creating these fake viruses or these viral hybrids that are terrible, and they release them on the world in order to game the system to their advantage.
Yeah,
I mean, it's terrible.
And there's an election coming up, so we got.
And there's an election coming up. Isn't that bizarre?
A 4-year virus.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Fred, I don't discount Bigfoot. The only thing I discount 100%. The only thing I completely discount is that it'd be some kind of evolutionary missing link.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a missing link or anything like that. There's no need for that.
Right.
I mean,
I'm still can't get over that Fred's got books and magazines.
I didn't see that coming.
No, that girl that I was telling you about, her dad passed away last year. So she said, "Hey, we were going through his books and there's some Bigfoot books if you want them." I'm like, "Oh yeah, bring them to me. I'd love them." So she brought these to me. I just dug them out of my bag earlier today because my kid's going to do a paper in high school. He goes, "Hey, we need to do something." And I thought I'd do it on Bigfoot. You want to help me? And I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." I've got some stuff. He's like, "Okay." So we're supposed to help him write a paper. Anyway,
Man,
I can give you a lot of good
things you
stuff.
learn on Echo Zoe Radio.
I know. Witch trials. I can't remember what else.
You
That
talked
we
about
did.
King James
Bigfoot.
only.
King James onlyism.
Halloween.
And
We
now
did Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Bigfoot goes along with Halloween.
Sasquatches.
Yeah.
Probably the best book you can get is it's called Raincoat Sasquatch, and it's a guy something Atley. I can't remember his name right offhand, but he just basically documents stories. It's all testimonial stuff of people he's interviewed from British Columbia up to into Alaska, because you know how British Columbia and the Northwest, that's a kind of a raincoat sort of area. People talk about them, seeing them swimming. You
So,
know,
Fred,
they'll be
gonna tell
clad.
us that aliens, we have aliens from other planets next?
No, I don't think there's no way aliens can come from another planet. They come from another dimension because they're aliens. That's why. I mean, they're demons. Aliens are demons.
Oh.
Anyway, there's a cultish show did you guys hear the cultish series on UFOs? That was really well done.
No.
Okay, that's worth your time listening to. And in the maybe it's the seventh episode, he interviewed this guy who used to work with MUFON. You know, MUFON is a mutual UFO network, and they investigate UFO sightings and people who, allegedly got, abducted and that sort of thing, and probed and that sort of stuff. And he talks about how he had some government guys, some DOD, Department of Defense guys who were Christians, contact him back in the early 90s, and they were concerned because there are black ops sort of programs that they're trying to weaponize the occult, trying to weaponize spiritual preachers to be like either to read minds or to manipulate people or whatever it is.
That's pretty.
And they were like, and these guys at the time were like absolutely concerned about it as Christians. They're like, there's nothing but bad coming from this because the people associated with it were committing suicide or dying in some kind of way or something like that. And basically it's all the stuff that you see in Stranger Things on Netflix is, pretty much what they're trying to do, open up portals to the spiritual realm. Well, the Bible tells us not to mess with that stuff because it's real and it'll kill you. And it drives you to madness, basically. But anyway, it's worth your time listening to that show, Cult. It was very well done.
Yeah, and like I said, I've been in this Haunted Cosmos. A couple Presbyterian guys up in Utah, I think they do it.
In Ogden, Utah, yeah.
And the show's really well produced, so it's interesting because they produce it well. It's got the production value, but then the topics are really interesting. And then they got me watching because the first season they talked about Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah.
Which I wasn't familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, but there's a.
I was familiar with it. I never realized I wasn't familiar with the show.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Skinwalker Ranch, so up in northeast Utah, it's like kind of almost southwest Wyoming. There's this ranch that all this weird stuff happens, and
it's documented weird stuff. That's what's bizarre about it. Yeah.
So a skinwalker is like a character in, I think it's Navajo folklore.
What the Ute Indians?
The Utes.
It's Indian. The Indians have that. Yeah, and they have like this idea that a skinwalker is like a shaman or some kind of being.
That's why it wasn't quite clear, because one time I hear that it basically sounds like a demon to me.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
But then the next time they describe it as more like a witch, which okay,
I guess that would be like a demon too.
Well, kind of, I guess. But yeah, I think it tends more towards the demon side because they talk about them coming out and they describe them almost like werewolves sometimes, like people like these big wolves. And there's the skinwalker is known for like cattle mutilations and stuff and stuff that were like. So from that, I had heard about this History Channel show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and I started watching that through Discovery Plus, and It's
Now,
interesting.
what's interesting about that is that the guy who owns that, I mean, that area obviously is a now, Indian area, but
Yeah.
it's just basically all the owners have been Mormon for the most part. So I'm always kind of curious
Yeah,
about why is there like all this weird stuff going on in there with,
Well, I mean, remember they actually believe in aliens, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Mormons believe that God came from another planet.
That's why I think he bought the ranch, is that he wants to. This guy really, he's some billionaire from Salt Lake City, some real estate billionaire.
Robert Bigelow owned it before, and he had the same issue with. That's what he wanted it for, and he experienced a lot of bad stuff that happened on that ranch that followed him home, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got rid of it, I think, because he's trying to get rid of all the. Not because there's nothing happening there. It's just like he's starting to get afraid of,
the
material with things.
Supposedly, who's this guy that owns it now?
Brandon, is it Brandon something? I can't remember Brandon something.
Yeah, some real estate billionaire from Salt Lake City bought it. And what I had heard on Hana Cosmos was that he invited this show in, and he just said, okay, the one thing is you can't make stuff up. Like, you can document whatever you want, make whatever show you want, but you're not making anything up. And I don't know. You never know with reality TV. So much of it is made up. You don't know. But I've watched 2 seasons now, and it does seem to approach it from more of a secular scientific standpoint, where they're, we want to get our gauges and meters and try to figure out what's going on here and there.
Well, did you see the episode where they had the green, they got the water and they were trying to find that cavity that was under that one set of land, and they put the green water, the dye in the water. And then it's like, they can never find where it is. And then I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, now that you've dug a little bit, then they finally start digging.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, well, put your, because you're not supposed to dig on the land because you have something bad happen to you. And but so you start digging, and I'm like, well, okay, well, put the green water back in. See what happens. Where does it go? I mean, I keep yelling at the TV station, go back and do that experiment again. Come on.
But it sure seems to me to be a lot of demonic stuff going on there.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Because they talk about portals and stuff. And they even brought in a rabbi that does some kind of old Hebrew chant and stuff and prayer. And
he was one of these new age. He's kind of a new agey kind of guy.
Yeah.
And because he knows Hebrew and does a Hebrew chant, reads the first book of Genesis in Hebrew, something like the first chapter. Somehow, the demons will open up to him or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So bizarre. Anyway,
so what else do we got? We got Sasquatch. Do we have like Mothman or anything else like that?
That was a good episode too. Did you hear the episode about Mothman?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one too.
Andrew's just over there like he doesn't know what to say.
Well, that's because Andrew is he's so naive. He doesn't know anything about the world. He's kind of stuck there in his little office and.
Well, Andrew thinks that cessationism requires that there can't be a Bigfoot or a Mothman.
Yeah, I know. Even though you have eyewitnesses who see it and are there, okay, what are they looking at?
Speaking in tongues of a known language.
They are.
You know Sasquatch isn't speaking anything. I don't know Sasquatch's language.
Well, there is Sasquatch language. You hear the Sierra sounds. Listen to the Sierra sounds.
Oh, Fred.
Google. You're writing this stuff down. Sierra sounds. You can do this later. And go and listen to.
I can't wait to see the Andy's show notes for this episode.
I'm going to tell you right now, there probably aren't going to be much for show notes on this one.
We had a good time.
There's going to be like a paragraph long description, and that's it. So.
Fred talks
all
about
these links that Fred's giving.
Fred's going crazy.
When you guys talked Christian nationalism and cessationism, I didn't really do show notes either. So,
man,
anyway.
Fred, I until today, I always had so much respect for you.
Well, I hope that you have even more respect for me. So I'm putting it all out there on this.
I think you lost your mind in your old age.
What do you got in that drink in your thermos?
Yeah,
there?
what are you drinking? It must not be water in there.
No, it's water. Anyway, so you can
got
contact
a few more
me.
minutes of this before I move on to Andrew's topic.
Before we move on to Well, I'll come back next month, and next year sometime we'll do just specifically on Bigfoot and talk about. There's different
I would
camps of
love to
Bigfoot.
do it. If you got a theological angle to it, I'm all for it.
I don't know if I've got some thoughts about it, but yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite things. My
You're gonna cost
youngest
me my
daughter.
membership in the Christian podcast community. Andrew's gonna be like, we can't have this stuff on.
Oh man, you're gonna be having tons of people joining to hear it. My
I've never
13-year-old
seen
daughter
him that red
absolutely.
before. He's almost as red as that thing on your headset.
I know, isn't that crazy? I hope he doesn't have a heart attack. That would be going to work him into a seizure here.
No,
But I could treat it as a very serious topic if you want to one of these days. Let me know. Well,
I'd
that's what
enjoy
blows me
that.
away is that you treat this as a serious.
oh yeah. Well, the takeaway I have from the Haunted Cosmos, and I appreciated these guys saying this, is, we're not just a world of stuff. We live in a supernatural, and the spiritual world is real. So, I mean, you hear, that one Sid Roth Nutter guy talk about it's natural to be supernatural. Well, yeah, there's something to say about that. I'm a cessationist, but I believe I live in a supernatural world. Do we believe that God is real? And
So okay, wait, hold up. Are you saying Bigfoot is supernatural?
What? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the show overall is dealing with it from a supernatural. People have encounters with things that are unexplained, and it's interesting to see how usually it's from the atheist community, skeptic community, that kill themselves to try to prove that it's a hoax or some kind of crazy explanation that they can explain and control.
Andrew, have you heard this show?
Probably not.
No.
It's
interesting. You should give it a shot.
Talks about sea serpents.
So likely
they got sea serpents, Bermuda Triangle. I like the one they did on the Nephilim, and then like
the giants. Well, that
giants
book they recommended, I got that from Kindle, and I've loved it. It's been a good little book. The guy's a Reformed Baptist who wrote it. Mm-hmm. Just talks about giants in the Bible and how do we understand a text when it says the sons of God came together with the daughters of men? Is that the Sethite view?
Well, they take a very what was this guy's name? How am I blanking? I'm getting old. You guys are older than me, but I feel.
What did it mean? The two guys?
Michael Heiser. They take a Michael Heiser view on like the Nephilim.
Which is what?
Yeah, Michael Heiser?
Yeah.
Well, Michael Heiser's deceased, but I don't agree with a lot of Michael Heiser stuff. He has a lot of weirdo.
Well, they say that too. They say on the Nephilim, we're kind of like we are open to his view, but he's not Reformed.
I haven't read. No, he's not, and he was a rabid anti-Calvinist.
What was his view?
Yeah, what's his view on the Nephilim? I don't remember that. I'm just familiar with his view. He's got this whole.
I'm not real deep into it, but he's into. He talks about like the divine council.
Yeah, see, I disagree with his take on some of that divine council.
And then Nephilim, like being the like demonic offspring, like these hybrid that are like half human, half demon. Like the angels came down, the fallen angels came down and had babies with women, and that was the Nephilim. And
one of our podcasters on the Christian podcast community, Truth Espresso, Daniel Minnick, had gone into, I think he did 3 episodes on that, on the different views, giving a good argument for each of the views of them. I'm not going to tell you where he came down, so you'll go listen. But
yeah, I want to go listen to that.
He did a pretty good job going through and digging up some of the, older Jewish literature to see where it documents that, the Jewish view was that, that passage is referring to angels or demons
that fell down. Yeah, that basically created this hybrid. Worded Goliath was a gigantic guy. Og of Bashan was a gigantic guy.
I think the issue there that I think it's a false argument when people say, "Oh, we'll see there were Nephilim after, after the flood." The issue is not who are the Nephilim as much as really it's who are the sons of God. That's really where the discussion is.
Mhm.
And it cannot be the Seth view. Yeah,
Yeah,
I used to hold to that. I used to hold to that view, and because I'll say sometimes I think us as cessationists will tend to like overcorrect. So you have some crazy charismatic thing. It's like, okay, well, I'd see that it's kind of a crazy charismatic thing, but at the same time, you don't want to discount where, I mean, there's something that's weird going on. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, it goes against scripture or something. I mean, of course, there could very well have been
Yeah.
angelic beings. Well, the world is filled with stories in ancient literature of these, Hercules and these beings that were,
Bigfoot.
demigods. Yeah, Bigfoots,
Bigfoot.
Sasquatch, all of these things that were half angelic creature and half human, that were giant, that were enormous.
So
I mean,
Andrew,
for sure, if you
mentioned
believe in Bigfoot, then you have no problem with believing that, the demons
Giants.
and women
Demons.
get together. Yeah.
Andrew, you mentioned 3 views without getting into what where he came down.
well,
what were the 3? What's the quick and dirty of the 3 views?
It's the 3 views are the view that it was demons that somehow procreated with humans. The second view is that's the line of Seth that mixed with
Line of Cain.
the line of Cain.
Right.
And then the third, which was the first I had heard about it, was the one you talked about with Michael Heisner. And so
And that is what is that one again?
Well, go ahead.
I thought it was kind of a combo.
I think what you just said as the first view was kind of my understanding. I like I said, I'm not a Michael Heiser follower.
Yeah, no, it was this view of like this, that it wasn't demons, but it was some
fallen angels.
Yeah, it was something I had. I mean, it was one where I was like, I got to go back and re-listen to this because it was the first time hearing it.
Okay. Because that's my understanding was the Cain, the descendants of Cain and the descendants of Seth was one view, and the second one would be. I
think that's a really poor view. I
agree.
I think that is. I think the view that has been held historically, at least within Judaism, was the view of demons procreating with humans, and that just seems so far-fetched. Like Fred said, I mean, people are just overcompensating and trying to find some way to explain this without looking at that. But you do have to figure what was Peter referring to when, what was Peter referring to when he refers back to that time?
Yeah.
Right. And Jude as well.
Yeah. And refers to it as angelic beings.
Yeah.
So that's what I understand is 2 of the views. And I think the third one that I've heard, and I don't know if Truth Espresso gets into this, but is it could just be demonically possessed human beings procreating with.
Yeah. And I thought that's what
I
thought that's what you were saying was the Michael Heisner view.
No, he holds to the angels and people.
Okay.
Producing a hybrid.
So then, the view he had was something where it wasn't like demons themselves, but demons possessed by humans. But here's the thing: whatever happened,
no, humans don't possess demons. Demons possess humans.
Yeah.
You know what? I knew what you meant, man.
The whatever happened there in Genesis 6, what we do know is that it was something that God said, because of this, he's bringing a worldwide flood.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And so I look at that and say, okay, the line of Seth.
Yeah, that's
that doesn't seem like something that was so like to say, okay, wipe out all of humanity.
Right.
Demons that would possess human beings being something that's so bad that God's got to wipe out humanity. I go, but there was lots of demon possession after that. It seems like there's something. It's sort of like when God gives the command to wipe out the Canaanites. Part of that was the fact that they were engaged. Like people sometimes say, and I just did a debate recently with a guy. We aired it on Apologetics Live, and the guy brought up the wiping out of even the animals. And I made the point that what we end up seeing historically is that they were practicing bestiality. So why wipe out the animals? Because the beasts don't understand it's right or wrong. And once they start getting used to having, sex with humans, it's, they're not, going to have a morality system that
Not
you can
capable
correct.
of repenting of that.
Yeah. So God just wiped them all out. Well, if angels did something with humans that, creating something, then he's not only putting them in prison and chains, as Peter says, but wiping out the result of it. But whatever it is, definitely it's tied to the flood.
Right. Oh, I agree. And that part of that has to do with dealing with that situation where there had been countless people, hybrid angel giant people that had brought violence on the earth and made it even worse. You know what I mean?
And it's just not Bigfoot.
Yes, that's Bigfoot's a different thing.
Do you want to talk about
from the tower?
I'm sorry,
He's
Andy.
Neanderthals from the Tower of Babel.
Do you want to talk about that other thing, or should we keep on with this?
Let's go. Let's move on to.
So
Doug Wilson.
Wait? Are you saying you want to go from Bigfoot to Doug Wilson? I mean,
yeah. Well,
Well, so I had brought up this article that was written by Kevin DeYoung. It's called "On Culture War: Doug Wilson and the Moscow Mood." Now, it is interesting because he and we could play the video that he refers to, but we started talking about this just because of the fact that in this thing he's criticizing Doug Wilson and his manner, I guess, of dealing with the culture wars. And I think the thing that's interesting is he basically is Kevin DeYoung is responding to what Doug is doing. He starts by saying, hey, a lot of people ask me, what is it about Doug Wilson? Here's what Kevin DeYoung says in the article. He says, I've been asked many times during my pastoral ministry, basically about Doug Wilson. And I'd say to questioners have been pretty split between, quote, I'm asking because I really like him, unquote, or, quote, I'm asking because I hope you don't like him, unquote, or I'm asking because I'm not sure what to think. And that's actually my view. Okay. So for the record, I don't follow Doug Wilson. I've heard a lot, both positive and negative about him. And I guess when I brought this up, it wasn't so much talking about Doug Wilson himself, but this article, because what struck me with the article is there was a reference to G3. And Kevin DeYoung ends up kind of putting G3 in the same group as the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, the ELRC from the Southern Baptists, and calling both groups conservative Baptist groups. And I'm going, I mean,
yeah, no.
Much of G3, they speak much against what the ERLC is putting out. I mean, I think that's what has really, for a lot of people, it's resonated with them, is the fact that G3 stands up against that. So putting them in the same group and saying that like somehow Doug Wilson was doing that, I was like, yeah, no. And so I had asked you guys, was I missing something? And I've asked this on Twitter as well, to say, like, am I missing something? Because I didn't think it was a dig really on G3. And when we could play the video.
Yeah, let's play that again. Now, when you played for us before we started, it was really choppy. So I'm going to drop in a clean version when I do the editing. But
yeah, and it's something where so the background on this, just so folks know, I guess every November, and Fred, maybe you could talk more about this. Pen and Press, which is the Doug Wilson's publishing arm for the homeschooling, does in November gives away free products, and it's their Take No Prisoners or No Quarter November, they call it, I guess. And this is their video that is announcing this for this year. And if you're listening, there's going to be some things where he's taking a blowtorch to things, and so you just hear some silence or music, but you could go watch the video and see. So here it is.
Starts off with like a Thanksgiving meal.
Welcome back to No Quarter November. For 11 months out of the year, I'm notoriously timid, as cautious and as polite as a Southern Baptist raising funds for the ERLC. But the month of November is a time for taking no prisoners and for granting no quarter. If you think of my blog as a shotgun, this is the month when I saw off all my typical careful qualifications and blast away with a double-barreled shorty. Everything we do this month will be focused on one singular goal. We want to help you apocalypse-proof your family. Thank you, honey. But why should you listen to me about such things? Well, when it comes to culture war and culture building, we've been at this for half a century now, much longer than such things have been cool to talk about in the green room at G3.
I don't know what this is.
This is where his house. I think that's the outside of their house.
A strong family isn't possible without quick, full, and honest confession of sin, without any wussy excuse making. And especially now, it's just as important not to confess and repent of things that aren't really sins, because lying is bad, and so is being a wuss.
Okay, for the listeners, he's like leaving the kitchen table and going off into the bunker to get his flamethrower.
Well, that's because there was a light going off saying there was a perimeter breach. So it's like he's going to go out and deal with the attackers.
So he straps on a
Stay tuned all month, because this November, each week we'll have a theme that will guide all our book and content giveaways as we help you get your own family prepped and resilient for the countless cultural curveballs that are just around the corner.
So he's lighting up his flamethrower with his cigar.
We're going to be covering leadership and raising.
No, he's lighting a cigar with his flamethrower.
And a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's November, so you can believe that we're here to give away a bunch of stuff.
So he's got cutouts of like Disney character and the logo
TikTok
for
logo,
Instagram
logo, and
Twitter or X.
I think of the old Twitter.
Yeah.
And there's TikTok and Netflix.
And then he's lighting them on fire with a flamethrower,
which is pretty cool. I would love to do that. Look at the fire. It makes
he's obviously got an external pack on there that he's keeping that flame that long, because of the flamethrowers only last about 30 seconds.
Around. Time for pie.
Well, he put on a pretty big tank on his back.
And then then it's all dark because it's walking back up to his house. So I don't know who was the production guy with this.
Yeah.
They need to be smacked for what is this? That had to be some director in Hollywood. Like, what is this? I can't believe this. There's nothing there.
I see a little light at the bottom. That's it. It's like
Yeah.
a candle at the bottom or something.
And then doesn't he like blow up he blows up a
Is it still going, or did it pause? Is it buffering, or
I don't know.
I don't hear Andrew anymore.
Yeah, I'm frozen.
Just sing the song if you keep the prophet. Black Swan with the bullet sling. King of the rated stones, no fear. About a skull in the bone, you better beware. Wash your sins through a fire light. Don't care.
What is this?
Is he rapping? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm locked out. I don't know if you can hear me.
We hear you.
We can
now.
hear you.
We hear you, but
Okay.
we still just see the black video from the.
Yeah, I can't seem to.
No, I think we made our point. I mean, he did all of the most relevant stuff has been sort of feigned here.
Well, you can talk, Andrew. We can't see you.
I just can't seem to get it off the camera. So the thing there, the comment of G3, I didn't think that was a dig the way Kevin DeYoung made it sound.
No, he was just saying that he's been doing it longer than the people at G3 have thought that it was cool to do.
Well, and
Like
we
the
talk about
G3
this,
sees it as a fad, and he's been doing it. For him, it's more of a way of life.
and
Right,
he
right.
may have the point. I mean, look, G3 has only existed in like the last 10 years. Actually
No,
less
no.
than that technically as a ministry. But
Right.
like, okay, but that would be factual in that sense. But the whole thing of saying that he's been doing it for a while, I didn't take that he's kind of ripping on G3 with.
Oh,
No, he's
now we
fought.
lost the audio.
Oh no. Well, I think what Andrew was saying is absolutely correct. I don't think that they were. I don't know what Kevin DeYoung was thinking. I think his main point is that you have someone like Doug Wilson will conflate what goes on at the ERLC with G3, which they're both Baptists and everything, but they're obviously got two trajectories theologically and culturally.
Sure.
So,
But what is does G3 tied to denomination? I mean, it'd be.
they're tied to Praise Mill Baptist Church, which used to be a Southern Baptist church. And so
Andrew's
when
gone
Praise
now.
Mill, oh, poor Andrew,
He'll be
you are the
back.
host now. Is it saying that I'm the host now?
Oh, I don't know.
Make sure you're recording.
I'm recording.
Okay. Well,
Good
Praise
thing
Mill.
he gave me ability to do that because
I'm glad he did. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Now that but yeah, Praise Mill Baptist Church used to be a Southern Baptist church, and then they left the Southern Baptist Convention just because of all the wrong politics, or at least the direction that they were going, and I think rightly so. I mean, they were smart to do that, and so yeah, I just think that Andrew's correct in that G3 hasn't been doing it as long as they've been doing it, because they've only been around as a ministry since 2012 or 2013, something around like that. They started doing these things on a yearly basis, and so it's maybe been 10 years or so that they've been doing. But to suggest that somehow he's, hey, we as post-millennialists is really what he's getting at. We've been on this cultural criticism thing for a long time. I mean, that's not necessarily true. I mean, they haven't been the only ones doing that. It's, I know for a fact our pastor has been talking about these trends since the 70s. And a lot of his, particularly in evangelicalism, where you have a lot of the, things like the lordship issue and, government and all kinds of stuff that he's addressed in various books and topics, and, and has put together material for a long time. And it's at least 30 years old, if not more. Oh, there's Andrew.
Is he back?
Are you back?
Sorry about that.
Look at you.
Sorry to create more editing for you, Andy.
Well, if we could just pause a minute, I got to find you and get you back up on. I see two Freds. There we go.
Oh, there.
I didn't have to. Well.
You want to finish your thought? I was kind of finishing your thought for you.
Yeah, no.
And bear with me, viewer. I have to fix things to get him on. Where is?
If the viewer is looking at what I'm looking at, it's golden.
Well, I just have
I've got you and me and Andrew. And Andrew's swag.
Andrew, can you talk for a minute? Because one of my Freds switches back and forth.
Yeah. So, well, while you're doing that, you want me to just start?
Well, hold on a sec. I gotta maybe. All right, I think I got you. We'll try that. I had it all worked to tell you your thing pooped out on us.
That was weird.
How come the Chinese can't get this video problem worked out? I don't get it. If they're going to spy on us with this Zoom
the
thing,
least they can do is like make their spyware.
Make their
useful.
spyware make it work well. I mean, come on.
The Zoom is from Australia.
Well, but it's Chinese that own the thing in Australia, so.
Okay, more conspiracy theories.
No. It's a factual
Chinese Sasquatches. It's the Yeti. Yeti. The Yeti owns
Yeti's in the Himalayas.
There you
Russia.
Go. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I was saying was just that I don't I just didn't think that this was a dig the way that he was making it sound on G3, that somehow G3 was in the same camp.
Yeah, probably. Now that I look at it from your perspective, I don't think that's necessarily what Wilson
No,
was.
I took it as like, this has been a lifestyle for us. It's only been a fad for G3.
Yeah, because this is what Kevin DeYoung says. He says, he regarding that comment with G3, he says, first, it strikes a tone of deliberate sarcasm and just a little bit naughty. Well, okay.
That's Doug Wilson. It's sarcasm and just a little bit naughty. That's
but that's what he meant by the Moscow mood.
Yeah. And so
they're sarcastic and naughty.
Yeah. And so, but he's saying
just a little bit, with the kids drinking wine and the cigar, lighting their cigar with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
And so Kevin DeYoung says, no one really thinks Wilson is timid and curious of the rest of the year. That's his sarcasm. The naughty part is that Wilson uses the words wussy and wuss, adolescent slang for someone who is weak or effeminate. These are words that most parents don't allow their kids to use, since the term probably originated with a combination of wimp and another word I won't mention. Now, I don't even know what word he's talking about.
I think he's talking about a derogatory term for a female body part.
Really? Okay.
The cats can also be called.
Yes, that would work there too.
Okay.
Yes.
So they wear boots.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So I didn't know that.
I'm so glad that you were this many days old when you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. And I was sitting there because I'm like, I didn't know why wuss would be like, he's saying parents don't let their kids.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't get that either.
I've not scolded my children for using that word.
We scold them for saying stupid.
Well, okay. So 80 Robles.
I should say I scold them for being mean, but not for that particular word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to 80 Robles' podcast, and he's going through this article, and he mentions he doesn't allow his boys to use the word stupid. And his argument is, they're just, as an adult, he's got no problem with using the word stupid because they know how to use it. But as children, they don't know the proper use of it and just use it out of context and in a more of a, where people are using it more of an attacking way rather than describing something. Mm-hmm. Right. So,
right.
I mean, I remember with that example, I remember when my first church, and I was running Fred, it actually originated from your church, Grace Community Church. It was called Search, Sunday Evening Activities Reinforcing Character Habits. And we used to do that in our church. And we had a memory I had to get a memory verse, and I had the kids learn Proverbs out of I want to say it was either New King James or NIV, I forget. I think it was New King James. And it basically used the word stupid, referring to someone who is given instruction and doesn't follow it.
Right.
And my pastor like told me the next week that his son used the word stupid, and they had to reprimand him because his sister was instructed by their mother to do something, and his sister didn't listen, and he called her stupid.
He used it in context for the scripture he just read.
Where did you learn that word? And he goes, well, it's the memory verse that Mr. Andrew gave me. And so
stupid, man.
But he used it properly.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could use simpleton and go to the King James and the simple man, the simple-minded.
Fool.
Yeah. But I mean, I think there are words that I think, like you guys said, there are words that maybe we could use as adults that we wouldn't necessarily want our children to use.
Right.
I didn't think that the word wuss was a derogatory or a foul language, but I have realized that there's words growing up in Jersey that I wouldn't think are bad words to use, but in other parts of the country they are.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And so we do have that. And the question here is again, is he reading more into it? Because just looking at that video, I'm listening to it and going, I didn't think there was a problem using that language, but maybe that's me where I grew up.
My only question was that he kind of put it in context with stuff that's sinful, and was he skirting the line of calling that sinful to be a wuss?
I think he was.
Yeah.
Because like he's saying it's with words I can't, I wouldn't use.
Yeah, well, you had Wilson saying that, to be someone who's kind of soft and is somehow it's akin to being as severe as lying. And, and I'm just like, well, no, not necessarily. Just because you're not someone who's going to go after someone really super hard doesn't make you a wuss, let alone, sinful, sinful disobedience. I don't get, maybe he was a little too, maybe that's what he's reacting to. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And like the comment about G3 and his second part, he basically links G3 with the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. And it's like, for me, that's a hard one to take because G3 has been pretty open against, like, putting G3 in the same camp as he does here by calling them both, conservative Baptist groups. There's a lot. I think G3 would be more in line much with what Doug Wilson is teaching than ERLC.
Yep.
And so I just don't see, to me, I wasn't sure if it just seemed like he's trying to make something more in his points, because I just didn't think it was a fair point to make with G3. To me, it didn't seem like it really fits.
The going after Doug Wilson for using that comment like that.
Yeah. Like somehow Doug Wilson is, he's belittling and being sarcastic is the word that the article uses against G3. And he is being sarcastic, but I mean, first off, there's nothing wrong with sarcasm. Okay. These mamby-pamby Christians who are like, oh, you can't be sarcastic. Really? Because Jesus was sarcastic. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say it's wrong, then go tell Jesus that.
Yeah, right.
Because he was pretty sarcastic at times. So is Paul, And so the fact that the Bible's written by God, when Paul writes things that are sarcasm, or even if you have, I'm drawing a blank where they have the Baal priests, and he's going, oh, maybe Baal,
yeah, maybe he's using the bathroom, like Elijah.
Elijah.
Maybe he's in the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean that's sarcasm.
Yeah.
Now, no one's going to complain about that, but somehow if you use sarcasm and say, oh, I've been doing this longer than it's been, a cool thing to do in the G3 green room. That's he's not throwing G3 under the bus. He's not.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't see it that way either.
Yeah, but I mean that's how the article seems to lay it out. And
yeah, I don't. Yeah,
look. The thing is Doug Wilson edgy? I don't follow a lot of Doug Wilson, but yeah, I mean, everything that I've ever seen sure seems pretty edgy. And that, like
I think that's partly how he's drawing his following, though.
Well, it's twofold. And A.D. Robles mentions this, is the fact that Doug Wilson will reach people that, a guy like this, is not going to be able to reach. Even people you and I wouldn't be able to reach. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that there's a difference there of, who can, not saying that we could do things that are sinful as long as we say we're reaching people. I'm not claiming that, but I don't know that I would say, just from this one video, and granted, I admit I don't follow Doug. I don't know a lot about him, but being edgy, I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be what I think appropriate. But I think what really gets Doug Wilson, what really has been creating the Moscow mood, to quote the article, is the fact that so many during COVID just bowed to the government. And Doug Wilson was standing up saying no. And it's almost as if, how did we get a Donald Trump as president? Very simple. Because we finally heard a guy that was saying what so many people believed and just wanted to have heard.
Right.
I mean, when he ran in the primary for the 2016 election, you had a whole slew of Republican candidates. And what were they all doing? The typical Republican talking points. Let's play nice with Democrats. Let's not, say things that'll get us, in trouble with the media. And Trump just said it like it was. It was refreshing to people.
Yep.
That's Doug Wilson.
Yep.
Doug Wilson is saying things, I think, that are refreshing for people to hear. And what people are doing is they're just going, okay, well, he's right on this. And then they follow with everything else. They start following him and believing all what he's teaching. But yeah, I believe a lot of it is just that. He's saying things that many Christians just want somebody in Christendom to stand up and say. And I think that's really what is the Moscow mood. It's just more Christians need to be standing up and saying the same things, just maybe in a better way, without the naughtiness.
Well, the thing that I thought was kind of interesting too, at least the pushback to that article that I saw on social media, is the fact that Kevin DeYoung is going after Doug Wilson for his use of profanity sometimes and sort of his colorful metaphors that are off color and edgy, like what you're saying. And but then Kevin DeYoung is at a ministry, the Gospel Coalition, where you have writers who routinely promote, finding Christ in the in this super hard R-rated movie. The John Wick figure being like Christ. And I'm just like, no, John Wick is just a guy shooting bad guys. I mean, what are you trying to find Jesus in? It's that kind of thing. And so they'll find these movies that are like, full of all kinds of profanity and in some cases some graphic sexual stuff and somehow try to, tie it to, oh yeah, as believers, you can take these spiritual lessons away from, this movie about bondage or whatever it is. And it's like, seriously? Are you kidding me? What the heck? And so I get that pushback that they're getting from that. And it's sort of like I wished that Kevin DeYoung was a little self-aware when he made these criticisms against Doug Wilson. But I will say this, though, one of my fellow colleagues at Grace to You kind of pointed out how when you look at all of these guys defending the use of edgy, off-color metaphors and profanity from the pulpit, it's always these homeschool guys they've come from homeschool families or homeschool, classic educational backgrounds. And it's like they've watched their first R-rated movie. It's like a homeschooler that's watched the Animal House or something like that for the first time. And so now they're like, oh, I'm going to throw in like an off-color word or a profanity or something. And, somehow that makes me like makes me like in touch with the world. And I know where you're coming from,
though, because I mean, I guess you're not saying all of them, but I'm just thinking of Jeff Durbin. He wasn't raised in homeschooling.
I know, but what I find funny is that they're integrated family worship people, probably. I mean, I would think that they're integrated family worship. And so he goes to this conference and he drops, profanity laced, swear words in his sermon. And there's like probably got one of these little playpen of kids in the back, where all the moms are sitting in the back with their kids and letting them play in the little area.
Yeah. And I'm not justifying that because I don't think that's appropriate.
You're going to cover little Geneva's ears so that she won't hear the profanity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate at a pulpit to use profanity. I don't think it's appropriate to use profanity, period. But I think that when I see this, Doug Wilson is a guy that you're going to get reaction from. Either you're going to get people that if you say something negative about him, people are going to either defend him or join you.
Right.
And
There's no in between, or
yeah, very
You know
much
what I
like
mean?
John MacArthur.
Yeah.
I remember we one of the churches I was running the pulpit committee, and as we were looking for a pastor, and the pastor we hired, called me, and he says, "Hey, I got a question for you. What do you think of John MacArthur?" And my response was, "Well, he kind of discipled me." And he was like, "What?" Because he's 3,000 miles away. I said, "Yeah, I've read everything he's ever put out." And so the thing was, he told me the reason he asked that question is because there's no in between with MacArthur. You either love him or hate him, but there's that's kind of Doug Wilson as well.
Well, I would say the one difference though is what is it that people are hating John for, and what things are people hating Doug Wilson? Most people
Yeah,
are like
good
what you're
point.
saying. Doug Wilson is getting disliked because he has a weird view of federal visionism, and he's got this edginess about him, and whereas John's getting disliked because he tells Beth Moulder go home or something like that. That triggers everybody, and they all fall down on their fainting couches. I can't believe he said that about that dear woman. I can't, and it's like, well, she needs to hear that. But he didn't, use colorful metaphors to insult her. You know what I'm saying? He
Yeah,
just said
yeah.
she should go home,
Yeah,
take care of her house.
There is that similarity though, that where there's
There's a both either
Yeah.
hate or love. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think I don't know if Kevin DeYoung is writing this because he probably sees this a concern of his, and he's seeing what we're seeing coming out of Moscow growing, but I think his concern is he's addressing the symptoms rather than the core issue. Why is Doug Wilson's influence growing? Why is this Moscow mood growing? I think the reason it's growing is not because of the naughtiness and the use of profanity or the alcohol and cigar. And I think the reason that you're having it is because people just wanted to hear someone stand up.
Yeah.
When
I think
everyone else is going, put a mask on, stay 6 feet away, go get a, vaccine, like all the stuff that everyone was saying, close your church. It's loving to close your church. And people were like, no, church by definition, the very word ecclesia means a gathering together.
Yeah.
You cannot do church over Zoom. It's just, that's not a gathering. And so there were people that just were, look, folks who follow Striving for Eternity, Anthony and I would do Apologetics Live, and we were always wondering whether Anthony was going to go this way because he's not a fan of Doug Wilson, but he would talk about like the he's gets along well with a lot of post-millennials. Why? Because they're just saying what a lot of us believe. And my thing would be to Kevin DeYoung is, instead of criticizing Doug for the naughtiness, do the same thing in a better way. But we got to be able to stand up against the culture, because the reality, I think we have, and this is Doug Wilson's, I think, point, we're losing the culture war if we're going to keep trying to just soften it. All we're doing is slowing it
It's
down.
not we're going to lose the culture war. We've been losing it for decades because of that.
Because of that. And that's the reason that I think Doug Wilson is doing these things, to say, no, we're not going to compromise at all. We're going to stand up against it. And people are starting to realize that's what's needed. You're not going to win this culture war by talking softly and trying to get along. I think that, I want to say the Republicans are learning, but they still haven't.
No, they're not.
Don't realize. When
they
you
just
have
expelled a congressman when they've got like a 3-vote lead. Like, they're not learning.
No, they're not learning because and they're doing it to show the Democrats, look, we go after our own too. Yeah, but the Democrats don't do that ever.
No.
Like, they're not getting rid of any of the people who.
No, they should have been a package deal. We'll get rid of George Santos when you get rid of Adam Schiff. Like,
yeah.
They're a package deal. They come, take them both or leave them both.
Yeah, they just censored the one woman for supporting the terrorist organization of Hamas. She should be out of Congress. They wanted to get rid of all the people that supported Trump on the Stop the Steal from the elections with January 6th. They want to throw out anyone that supported that, and yet that's not a terrorist organization, and there was no terrorism that was done that day.
Right.
But they want to, say, hey, but we can't do that when we actually have a terrorist group.
Yeah.
So
no, I think you hit the nail on the head putting like, why is Trump popular and why is Doug Wilson popular? I think there's a lot, that Venn diagram has a lot of overlap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they have the same naughtiness. but no, I mean, I think the thing though is that I think that there's a large portion of Christians that just want to hear someone stand up and show leadership. I mean, it's crazy that people were looking toward Putin in Russia as a leader back when Obama was president. And it's just crazy to think about Americans that are because they were looking to a guy that just said, no, homosexuality is illegal. We're not allowing it here. And the groups were trying to, and he's like, I'll throw you in jail. He wasn't trying to get along with them. He just stopped it.
Well, and then the Russians just did something similar just in the last few days. I saw they came out against LGBTQ stuff. Just said, no, it's not going to have a part here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's same with China, by the way, too. But yet China's the one pushing TikTok to promote in America, right? But that's the whole thing that I think Wilson was doing, his fight against the culture. And I think that is the appeal for many people with Doug Wilson. Like him or hate him, I'll at least agree we need to stand up against culture. Look, Fred, you said John MacArthur's been doing that since the 70s.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing new. You had Spurgeon, the downgrade. If you go read the downgrade controversy, he spoke against this with his culture. This is a constant theme that every culture deals with.
And George Whitefield before him.
Yep.
Yeah. And what you see repeatedly is you'll see those professing believers who just want to get along with the culture to try to change it. And those that say, no, you got to stand up to it. I forget the name of the movie. There was a Christian movie that done many years ago. The theme of the movie was a bunch of Christians get together. They're talking about the cultural shifts and the problems. And basically what happens is one guy wants to stand up and speak against the culture. And the culture back then was like guys wearing long hair. And so
the hippies, those dirty hippies.
Yeah. And this guy is like saying, no, like we got to be nice and get along and like show them the morality, teach them. And he ends up getting a time machine and coming into, America in the 80s
that
90s.
movie was made by my buddy. That's a Rich Cristiano movie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's
I'll
called.
think of the name.
I'm seeing it.
Well,
but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
he was in the past.
Yeah, he comes into the future, and he goes into a movie theater, and he's aghast with what he sees as acceptable, and how the things he was trying to say. Hey, let's just do it slowly, and he saw, well, the culture shifted that fast. And when he got back in his own time frame, now he's like, we got to stand up against it. And that's, I think, what we're having here is this has always been an issue. Some people can look at the history to say, we got to stand up against it. Doug Wilson's one that's doing it.
It's called Time Changer.
Time Changer.
I think I've heard of that. I think that's been on one of my like to watch videos for.
Well, now you're going to go watch it, Andy.
Yeah, for years.
I think that I would say that I think that G3 is probably in that same camp as Doug, trying to fight that. Mm-hmm. I don't picture them as the EL or the ERLC just trying to get along. I mean, the article kind of struck me. I thought that it was
he was a little too heavy-handed with Doug Wilson when he shouldn't.
I saw his point, but I think what ended up happening is he at least with me, he lost the point he was trying to make because he went too far.
Right. He exaggerates the problems. There's other problems with Doug Wilson other than him standing up and creating a mood.
I was just going to say, there's plenty to criticize him about. Maybe that's like on the shallower end of the pool.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, so I was just, I didn't, and I put it out on Twitter saying, is there something that happened between Doug Wilson and G3 I don't know about? Maybe there is, but I think I think they work.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was just a sarcastic comment that his way of saying we've been doing this forever. You guys have just been talking about it as a fad.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, guys, I'm getting distracting texts from my wife and noticed that
Oh my God.
we're
They're
running
cooking
along.
macaroni and cheese and bacon here. I can smell it.
Bacon.
We're getting ready for
Well, they
the
put.
year.
I know that's because the world is round; it's not flat. So he's like in the future in 4 or 5 hours, and
Yeah.
Me?
wow.
2.
No, Andrew. Isn't Andrew on the East
Andrew's
Coast?
3. Yeah, 3 hours ahead of you. Yeah.
Yeah, here it's just 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's 8, almost 8 o'clock here. But
No, they make macaroni and cheese, and then my kids will make bacon and cut up bacon into the macaroni and cheese.
Well, just
don't tell my-
do me a
don't tell my
favor.
kids.
Can you just take an extra strip of bacon?
Yes, I know.
Make sure to ship it to Squirrel there to Gene Quiet. So he complains because
they don't have bacon in Montana or something.
No, what happened was we're at Fred's.
Oh my
breakfast,
gosh, here we go.
and Gene has never let me live down the fact that
Oh my God.
Fred's little, what was she, 7-year-old
Probably at the time, yeah. She's like
7-year-old
13 now.
girl? She wants the last piece of bacon, and Gene takes it. I mean, it's so wrong. You just stole the last piece of bacon from a 7-year-old girl. I take it
I
off.
think it was
Give it
his.
to
I
her.
think it was her. Wasn't it his bacon? But she wanted it or something. I can't
She
remember.
wanted it, and he just took it. And so
No,
I
this is
took
my
it off his
bacon.
plate and gave it back to her. She wanted it. Come on, she's a 7-year-old. He's a grown man.
She had to learn a lesson about sharing, and I think they wrecked it or something. I don't remember what the.
No, I think it was Gene that needed the lesson on sharing.
Yeah.
So, Andy, next time you have Gene on, you can ask him about the history of bacon and
Well, he probably started getting into like Francis bacon or something. It's a different bacon.
Speaking of bacon, there's this controversy. Yeah,
Can we save it for next year?
we can.
yeah, that'd be good.
Hey, thanks for having us on, Andy.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming
Fred,
back.
I'm sorry we kind of meandered all. I mean, this was a deep rabbit hole. People
I
are
had fun
going to.
talking about
people are
recover from your
Sasquatch
belief
for
in Bigfoot.
45
People are going to
minutes.
are still falling down this rabbit hole right now, and they're yet to reach bottom.
I don't know that I'm going to recover from this Bigfoot, your belief in Bigfoot.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I
All
can
right,
put some
guys.
stuff together. I'll try to put together stuff, and I'll give pictures and things, and give it to Andy. He can flash them up on the screen as we talk.
All right, why don't you let me wrap it up and then you guys can go on all night long if you want.
I
All
think I'm
right.
going to move to Moscow, Idaho.
Thanks again
Shoot
for another fun
flamethrowers.
episode, and I look forward to December 2024. When we
Oh,
talk
I know,
about
I do too.
when we talk about
Probably,
the bacon,
and we'll talk about
controversy.
that and Gavin Newsom being our new president. Won't that be awesome?
For your state, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So you can get rid of
All
them.
right.
Well, that's that.
I'm gonna hit close here. All right, and then and you guys can keep chatting. All right.
Echo Zoe Radio is an outreach of Echo Zoe Ministries. If you are blessed by the show, please consider offering your support. There are many things you can do to help, including prayer, sharing the show with others, and your financial support. Echo Zoe Ministries is a registered nonprofit organization with 501c3 tax-exempt status, and your donations are tax deductible. For more information about how you can support Echo Zoe Ministries, please visit echozoe.com/support.
That wraps up episode 188. Thanks for listening to Echo Zoe Radio. For show notes, visit echozoe.com/188. Please also check out the Christian podcast community. There's an ever-growing list of fantastic shows focusing on all sorts of topics, and you can find them all at christianpodcastcommunity.org. And Lord willing, we'll be back next month with the January episode of Echo Zoe Radio.